You set foot on foreign soil. Only this land isn't ruled by any country or government. In this land we celebrate music. In this land we celebrate games. In this land we celebrate those who compose video game music. Welcome to the VGMbassy. Welcome and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the VGMbassy. This is a show centered around video game music and the amazing online community of fans and podcasters that enjoy it. My name's Ed, and on each episode I'll take the role of Prime VGM Minister and invite a guest VG Ambassador onto the show to share with us their own video game music culture. Or I may share a part of my culture on a solo show. I don't think we have too much culture at all this show. Maybe some of our secret guests' culture, but it is finally a blind listen. We haven't had a blind listen in quite a while, but we do have a return VG Ambassador here with us today to listen to a mystery soundtrack. Ryan Steele, how are you, sir? Welcome back to the show.
I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. This coffee is waking me up. I was telling Ryan before we started recording that I was barely keeping it together. It's been so difficult at work lately, but I'm ready to go, man. We're going to listen to some crazy mystery soundtracks and or pieces from a soundtrack and try to figure out where it came from. Are you nervous? Are you anxious? How are you feeling about this?
I'm feeling good. Today I shall take the role of Detective Steele, trying to figure out the suspect, the motive, the crime, the who, what, where, and when. Who committed this foul atrocity of composing a VGM orchestrated soundtrack? Or no orchestra.
Just don't smoke in my VGMbassy. That's all I ask. You can drink all you want. Just don't smoke. Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar with the Blind Listen episodes, what's wrong with you? Go back and listen to all of them right now. They're a lot of fun. So what I do is I ask a friend of the VGMbassy, be it a Patreon member or just someone that hangs around in the Discord a lot that I'm familiar with, or they'll just come to me and kind of unsolicited say, hey, do you know about this game? And if I say no, they'll say, okay, I want you to listen to this soundtrack. I'm going to give it to you. And on the show, what I do with the guest is listen to the music completely without any sort of context whatsoever. The only context we have is the name of the song. We don't know who composed it. We don't know when the game was released. We don't know what systems. We don't know what kind of sound engine, whether it's chiptune, whether it's Redbook, whether it's MIDI. It could be anything. And as we go through the show, we discuss the music. We try to hone in on what we think are the facts behind this soundtrack. Maybe it clearly sounds like a Game Boy Advance game, and so we're gonna go from there. We're gonna try to figure out what kind of game it is. Does it sound like a driving game? Does it sound like an RPG? And then by the end of the show, each of us will kind of hone on our final theories. Maybe a rough idea of a composer, a rough idea of the type of game it is, a rough idea of a console or year. And then the person who submitted the soundtrack will reveal all, and we'll see how close we came to guessing the correct facts. I'm really looking forward to this, man.
I as well. I have been waiting for a very, very, very long time for this to finally happen.
Yeah, I know. It's been a little while. I think COVID really kind of knocked me for a loop, and so my release schedule has been a lot slower, so it took quite a while to get to this one. But both you and our submitter, UtopiaNemo, aka Nathan, who you might remember from our episode 50 extravaganza, have been very, very excited to get this done. And so Nathan has submitted to us the soundtrack of a game called Going Under. And I am not familiar with this title at all. Have you ever even maybe heard of this in passing or anything? Because this name didn't sound familiar when he said it to me.
The only thing that comes to mind is that the term "going under" draws to my mind the thought of Down Under.
Oh,
down with
Outback,
Volt Supreme Land.
Yeah.
Going under, mate.
Yeah, it's possible.
Then Going Under then also brings the idea of maybe it's like a mining game, or because I said of Australia, it has to do with crocodiles or gators.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that's about it for me.
The first thing that came to mind for me was going underwater.
Oh, yeah.
Like drowning or trying to tread water or something like that. Being afraid of going under.
Oh.
So that's the mood I got out of the title.
All right.
It also made me think of remember that game Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy? It's that guy in that tub with the hammer, and he's got to move himself over the. You basically swing the hammer around with the keyboard, and you have to get yourself over these obstacles. It's kind of like a meme game, but it's taken over, it's gotten pretty viral over the past few years, but it's called Getting Over It, so I thought it was the opposite of Going Under,
Sounds like Q-Wop.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
It's similar to Quap, exactly. All right, so UtopiaNemo has graced us with his own voice in the form of a recorded introduction to this soundtrack, so let's see if he gives us any hints at all. I have not listened to this yet. Take it away, Nemo.
Ooh, it's got music.
Secret Agents Ryan Catlandia DS and Prime Minister Ed the Ninth Ruiner Wilson. This is Mission Control Staff Sergeant UtopiaNemo. If you are listening to this message, it might not be too late. Your mission, which you've already accepted, is to listen to the attached tracks, rumored to have been created for a super secret game codenamed Going Under. Scratch that. It's actually called Going Under. So, listen to the tracks, analyze, scrutinize, figure out their significance, and at the end, guess what Going Under is all about. And take care. The fate of the world is at stake. Or something like that. Good luck, agents. You'll need it.
That was a well-produced track.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, Secret Agent Steele's got to go put it back his secret agent voice again. Kind
of like the Ruiner of the Ninth. It's got a very anime kind of feel to it, like Lupin the Third or something like that. All right, so any hints that you might have gleaned from this? Any? Do you think there's any hidden meanings in anything that he said?
Other than the fact that he has referred to me as the secret agent, Ryan Catlandia DS Steele, indicates.
Oh, who's now Australian? I see.
We're going under, mates. This accent's gonna move places, mate.
I'm done when he gets to Cockney. We're out. That's it.
We're going under, mate. Governor.
Oh, governor, we're going under.
Going under, mate. Yeah, I mean, unless the actual track that he dumped on us during his introduction is an indication of the music we're going into, maybe. But I was also focusing too heavily on that sweet produced Nate tracks.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out whether or not his whole secret agent, you got to figure it out, whether that was just based on the concept of the show that we're doing, or whether or not that had something to do with the atmosphere of the game itself, if it was kind of like a sci-fi noir kind of a thing, because that was the feel of the whole intro that he put together. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm really interested to get into this soundtrack and start dissecting it. So what do you say we listen to the first track?
Let's go on the rails. Let's get this hype train going.
Yeah, we've got a track called Monorail Hype. So yeah, let's listen to it.
Choo choo.
And we'll be right back and give our thoughts.
Fire it up.
All right, we're back. That was Monorail Hype from the game Going Under, part of our Blind Listen episode. So we're not in chiptune territory. We know that.
Nope.
This definitely sounds more like a contemporary game. What I don't know, what era of contemporary like streaming audio type of game do you think? This is like 2020s, 2010s, 2000s? What would you say?
Oh, this to me sounds like we're back at the farming episode, if I'm honest. Mm-hmm. This to me sounds like 2017, 2018 indie hand-drawn / pixel game to me.
Yeah.
That's what I get it. Like this track to me sounds like it's either a cinematic or a title screen. Obviously the sound effect of the rails and the title screen itself sounds to me like the beginning of Animal Crossing, like you're either watching a cutscene of being on a train and you're kind of going through this and the sound of the melodies, and like I'm imagining watercolor blues and greens and oranges as you're passing through, kind of like the one that UtopiaNemo was playing, A Short Hike. That's what it is. A short hike is the aesthetic in which I'm going in. I'm imagining visual art style, so like a 2D background, not a top down, and I'm imagining, like I said, watercolors. That's what I've got in my mind mentally, either someone on the train or someone sitting on like a silhouette of a landscape in the background at a train stop and someone sitting on a bench.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm very, very with you on nearly everything that you said. I got less of a pixel art feel and more of a very artsy 3D artwork style feel, maybe just because it sounded less chiptuney, and I tend to associate modern chiptune music more with pixel art, but I feel like it could really go either way. It started off extremely positive. This is one of the most positive and uplifting pieces of VGM I've heard in a long time. And it really had a get up and go, like the world is our oyster and we're just going to ride on this train and enjoy our vacation. And it's great. And then it gets like a little interesting. Like as it moves on, it gets a little more somber sounding. And then this lead line comes in and it's like
it goes off the rails.
It's a little off kilter, and then it just kind of like feels like it's getting drunker and drunker, and then it just falls right off the bench at the end. And the music kind of continues onward without it, almost like, ooh, where'd you go? Somebody dropped their keyboard off their lap and nobody noticed. So I thought that was really interesting. I'd love to see how that's represented in the game, if there's some sort of visual aspect to that. And that whole progression of things really makes me think that this is probably more of a cinematic than like a gameplay area, because it's not holding that same kind of sound throughout the whole piece.
Yeah, like you're getting story given to you while you're riding a train.
Scrolling text or something like that, or just, a visual representation of a character doing train stuff, whatever that is, monorail stuff.
Monorail!
All right, so I feel like it's time to move on to the next track, which is called The Grind. So it can either be like a monorail grinding on the rail, or maybe it's just... maybe you've just realized that you've gotten close to work and now you have to go and sit in the office and do your thing.
Or you're at a high school dance.
Yeah, grinding up on... the ladies or the men, depending on your preference. All right, so let's listen to The Grind, and we will be right back.
All right. Hello, listeners. This is The Grind here on 902.101 FM. Bow, 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 bow.
And The Grind it is. That was a grindy, funky, dirty, yet playful piece. Lots of those words don't seem like they go together, but I think that really describes everything that this was.
Yeah, it's if the Wii shop went dirty.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking about it, and I was like, well, I know that on our last blind listen, Volt Supreme suggested a too mellow soundtrack for us to listen to, and I almost felt like maybe we're listening to the same guy. Like, this has a lot of too mellow feel to it. Very, funky, jazzy, kind of like a future funk kind of a deal. But then, Ryan, you were saying you also heard like Kazumi Totaka, and I heard a little bit of like Chip Tanaka in there. Just some of those really kind of experimental Japanese Nintendo vibes going on. This has so much cool stuff in it.
Yeah, it goes through a lot of different ideas, and then like halfway through the song, it goes into what feels like freeform electric piano, jazz hints, kind of like if the Doors did a live jam session and they're just kind of playing around, feeling it out, doing a little solo there, here and there. It goes a lot of places, and all those places are dirty and detuned, and I hear samples, so that there's no indication to me that this would be an old soundtrack whatsoever. There's too many techniques and too many production things. Like, this has to be post 2010 to me. Completely agree.
Yeah. No, this definitely has like indie kind of like I'm getting like Read Only Memories.
Yeah.
2064 Read Only Memories vibes. That era of adventure game where there's some callbacks to some retro stuff, but it's really got its own unique spin on the modern game going for it.
Yeah, the lack of like a proper true loop on that is interesting to me.
Like the composer thinks that you're really going to spend 4.5 minutes in this area, or more than that. Like if this loop is like more than 4.5 minutes long, like you're going to be spending a lot of time in this spot. Maybe the grind has something to do with it. Maybe you got off of that monorail hype. Maybe you did go to work, and maybe this is what plays in the office, and maybe there's some sort of office simulation part of the game going on where you do spend a lot of time here listening to this piece of music and doing office-y things, responding to emails and printing useless papers and filing them away.
Like, I understand what you're saying, but like musically, it doesn't say to me office. It says to me, you've gone down into like the back alleys, and like I'm getting more crime vibes.
Okay.
But like just by how dirty and jazzy, it just feels like back alley grinds to me.
Maybe your office is at a jazz club.
There you go.
I'm reaching there, but but yeah, no, I can see it both ways. So I think that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to, again, figuring out where this actually plays in the game. So far, I feel like this game is in a genre and a style that I would very much appreciate playing. If it's anything like, read-only memories or something in that vein, I really like games with that kind of atmosphere. So
yeah,
let's increase the atmosphere. Let's play another track from the game. What we have next is a track called 4.8 Stars, which... that puts me more in a like late 2010s, early 2020s kind of a Yelp review or Uber or something like that. So
yeah, like before we go into this, like 4.8 stars, the grind, I'm starting to think this is a taxi service.
Oh,
maybe. Uber.
Maybe. Yeah.
Let's find out.
Cool. All right. We'll be right back. All right, I might give that more than 4.8 stars. That was a song called 4.8 Stars from the game Going Under, and I really, really like that one. I was trying to put my finger on the genre, and I called it breakbeat in a hip-hop style, and then you were like, acid jazz? I was like, oh, yeah, no, that's totally it. So thank you for pulling that out of my head. What'd you think of this one?
The beginning drum beats, I was like trying to think, I'm like, is there anything more than drums? I'm like, I guess there's some glitchy stuff in the back, and then it comes in that, that synthetic piano. It definitely sounds, it's like your first proper loopy track in this. It's nice. I like it. The intensity to it suggests that there's some sort of conflict going on during this, or it's higher paced. Something of this nature.
Like you might be in a rush to do something if it's not a conflict.
You got to get somewhere quickly. Yeah, it's giving me like Dreamcast, PS2 era vibes of some of those games.
So percussion, yeah, for sure. I'm just a sucker for like really complex danceable beats, especially when it sounds like it's been like chopped up, especially like hip hop style drums that are chopped up and glitched out. So this is ringing my bells in all the right places for me. And you're right, there's not too much to it. Like it's not a very dynamic track. You pretty much get that beat, and then there's a section where it's got some harmony notes over it, and then it just kind of settles back into that beat again. So
yeah,
It does what it needs to do, I think, for the amount of time that it plays, and then it, just kind of loops again. So
yeah, there's an A and a B section. A section just percussion, B section having the chords over it.
Exactly.
And then they just go back and forth. So it indicates to me that this is a short time in this game, or it's just a very frantic cinematic piece.
Yeah, exactly. I could probably listen to this on loop for quite a while, though. It's really hitting those buttons for me. I would give it 5 stars, but that's just me. All right, so let's move on to our next piece of music. What do we got coming up next, sir?
Oh, okay. Words are hard, and I'm not Italian, but I'm going to say omegaccino.
Omegaccino. It's probably more capu than cappuccino, whatever capu means.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need one right now. So let's listen to
omegaccino.
Do you think it's going to be, from the sound of it, I feel like it might be even more frantic than 4.8 stars, but
it sounds like Omega coffee.
Yeah, lots of caffeine. So, I don't know. Let's see if we're right.
All right.
All right, that was omegaccino. Wow, that was super cool. I don't know how it fits in with coffee, but it was kind of dirty. It was kind of grindy. I love that bass tone. It was kind of like Sawtooth, but just kind of like really deep and gurgly in places. Had a lot of fun with this one. What'd you think?
I'm really liking this. I like the progressive flow of each one of these tracks. As someone who likes prog music, it goes on a journey every track. It's not just like 4 chords to 4 chords to 4 chords. I really like the creative outlet of this individual as they just keep moving, and it just keeps feeling like it's getting dirtier and grindier. And I was saying to Ed that I was getting not necessarily the beat 'em up vibes of it, but I'm getting like the Streets of Rage. You're in the city, maybe you're going undercover.
Yeah.
Like, to me, maybe you're like a cop or someone who's undercover.
That was a revelation that it really fits.
Like, I'm still like in the hand drawn, but when I start thinking about like city atmosphere and things like that, I start thinking more like isometric or like a table RPG where you're like the grid view of, well, the isometric view of exploration. So I like maybe like a disco asylum or something.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. You know who just popped into my head is Sam Webster, who did the Grindstone soundtrack. And I know Nemo and I are both really big fans of that soundtrack, and it's a lot of really grindy, hip-hoppy kind of stuff. So I'm wondering if this might have been a soundtrack of his that kind of went under the radar, and I can definitely see that being him for sure. Also, the composer of Oxenfree, Scientific, I think might be a contender for this one as well. They all have that same kind of really dirty, hip-hoppy meets dance music kind of style, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Only because I've listened to your podcast. And I've listened to those.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Internet.
My entire knowledge of VGM composers is entirely based upon listening to this show.
Amazing. I'm so glad that I can teach, because that's what I love doing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so there's that. I don't know. This really just has like a playful yet dirty. I mean, I keep saying dirty and over again, but that's really a description I keep coming to. And it almost feels like, I don't know, it feels like I've walked into a room and this like weird robot comes out of the corner and it's like, it looks really friendly and it wants to give me a hug, but it also looks like it could kill me at the same time. So that's the kind of feel I get. There's like a sinister aura behind the friendliness. And I don't know, I really enjoy that kind of music. So
it's like when you're trying to use a descriptor for each one of these tracks and it's like, I hear vinyl. Static in the background, and I keep hearing detune and distortion. It's like, what else descriptor you're going to use? It just keeps getting filthier and nastier every track. Playful, but still filthy and nasty.
By the time we're at the end of the soundtrack, we're just going to be like, I need a shower. Pass me the soap.
Filthy beats.
All right, so let's move on to the next tune. We've got one called Talk is Cheap. This is a long one, clocking in at over 5 minutes. So go grab a drink. We'll be right back.
All right. talk is cheap. That's the name of that last track from this game, Going Under. And what a track it was. It goes through such a musical journey.
It does. It absolutely does. I am mesmerized by it. I'm really, really digging these tunes. And I'm looking at it with like a Sam Webster goggles on, with like grindstone composer. I'm seeing him in a lot of this music. So I have a feeling, unless this soundtrack significantly changes by the time we're done, that will probably end up being my final guess. But I don't know. I really like this one. Again, kind of a grindy hip hop kind of flavor, but it just goes in so many different places. And to mix like those beats with that, you recognize it as a Japanese koto with like a music box, kind of a percussive twinkly in there. Just some really cool combinations of instruments that you don't normally see together that just work really, really well together.
Yeah, there's a lot of instruments that are often used inside video games for like what you'd see for like a seashore music, or a lot of different flavored instruments in this track that usually are used to indicate certain areas inside a game. But I don't feel like any of the instruments that he chose normally indicate those locations.
Yeah.
They're just instruments and twinklings and pluckings that he's added underneath or / on top of these hip hop beats. The interesting part to me is that it starts off in the style that it does and it ends happy, and I'm having a hard time imagining it looping back to where it started as. And so like a lot of this music to me, it all just feels so cinematic. Like it's hard for me to imagine.
Yeah. I guess we can also consider that this might be a retail soundtrack arrangement of a more dynamic soundtrack.
It could be. It could totally be a dynamic soundtrack.
Yeah, so
that would make sense to me. As you progress in the level, those certain things would go, and this is just how he imagines it as a full song. So yeah, I could see this being a dynamic soundtrack.
For sure. I liked when the music box stuff started coming in. There was this really stabby kind of a synthetic bass almost. It was like a mid-range instrument. It was too electronic to really tell what it was, but it would kind of like come up out of the ground like voom, voom, voom. It's really hard to kind of describe it. I had no context for like what kind of instrument it was supposed to be, but it just sounded really, really cool. Very industrial sounding. So I was digging that part. I think that was probably around like 4 minutes and 15 seconds into it. So
there's so much going on. It's hard for me to like remember everything that goes on.
Exactly. By the time you're done with it, you're like, oh man, what? It just felt like I listened to an entire album crammed into 5 minutes long.
Yeah, I need to keep listening over and over and over again.
After we finish this show, I'm going to go out and buy this one for sure. It's got some really good tunes I want to listen to more intently, like in the car or something. Oh, so we were talking while we were listening to the song about the name Talk is Cheap. And okay, what do they want to do instead of talk? Do they want to fight? Do they want to play cards? Do they want to, I don't know, have a speed omegaccino drink off or something? But the next song is called Hand Over Fist. So I'm thinking maybe the talk is cheap comment might lead into the hand over fist action. So I don't know, you think we might hear some fight oriented music here?
I think that this sounds like a drug deal.
Okay.
There's someone saying, hey, talk is cheap. Put your money where your mouth is. It's a bet, or they're gambling, and now this person is like making money hand over fist.
Oh, okay.
That would be, if I'm going to go straight by what the tracks say.
Maybe this is like the theme of The Bookie or something, where it's maybe a little sleazy sounding.
Yeah, they definitely see these two tracks seem correlated to me just by title.
Yep. All right, so let's take a listen to it. We'll be right back. Welcome back. That was Hand Over Fist by a mystery composer from the game Going Under, submitted by Mr. UtopiaNemo. And, I don't even know where to start with this one. I'm getting Asian vibes for sure. There was little hints of it in the past couple of tunes that we listened to, but this one's bringing it way more towards the forefront, I think. Do you think this has a fight feel like we might have been talking about earlier?
I'm gonna say no. I'm getting someone's inside a castle, and we got vampires to deal with now, and vampires to deal with inside of Japan.
Yeah, maybe there's a whip involved or a Belmont or two.
Maybe. That gets me in all the happy spots. I mean, I love Baroque music. I love organs. I love kotos. I love the merger between what's kind of going on the right-hand side, which is like organ Baroque styles and motifs. And then you've got on the left-hand side, Japanese traditional koto. They're kind of not doing the same thing at the same time. You have this steady organ and Baroque music laying down a foundation, and then you have improvisation on the left hand side doing fun things with the koto, and then you have this drum kit staying and laying down this smooth foundation. So, you know, as much as the chaos it is, it really has a certain sense of consistency that doesn't confuse the listener, even when it goes to crazy arps and a lot of like chip tune sounding instrumentation as well. It's crazy and it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this one does have a build like the other songs do, but it's much more coherent in its sound, I think, and its theme. Like it kind of knows what it is and it stays there, where like some of the other tracks we've been listening to have really kind of gone in really weird directions, you know, all within that one span of like 4 to 6 minutes. So I'm thinking maybe this one has more of a purpose of gameplay or action, or maybe there's some martial arts involved or something, and that's where like the Japanese instruments kind of come in. There was that game Sleeping Dogs, which I loved. It's kind of like a Grand Theft Auto style game, but it takes place in Hong Kong, that had a lot of music like this, where there was very urban instruments, but then you've also got some of the Oriental and Chinese, Japanese instruments as well. So kind of reminded me of those.
This is starting to turn into Yakuza to me.
Maybe. Maybe it's Yakuza in Australia.
There we go.
Yakuza. All right, we're gonna really insult Volt Supreme. Sorry, dude.
G'day, Yakuza mates.
All right, man. Let's move on. What do we got next? A very whimsical sounding theme to this one. This one is called Motorized Ice Sculpture. Maybe some sleigh bells in this one or something.
I hope so.
We'll see if it hits any of those. Yeah, any of those traditional ice music tropes. We'll be right back.
It has to be sleigh bells. That smooth track was the motorized ice sculpture, which did not have sleigh bells, and I am incredibly disappointed.
Well, yeah, maybe disappointed in no sleigh bells, but not disappointed in the music.
Not in the music, just the lack of sleigh bells. It really would have held the whole track together, would have been some sleigh bells.
Agreed. I mean, now I can't envision ice if there's no sleigh bells.
Unacceptable.
But no, seriously speaking, this is really smooth, really kind of like those edited house pianos, kind of providing the chords, and that really, again, thick, chunky percussion, kind of in a hip-hop style. You said you were hearing like taiko drums there, and I do agree with you. I think there's still some element of like Japanese instrumentation going on, and that surprise blues guitar. It's like Minnesota Fats just decided to, walk in the front door and start laying down some licks over this like trippy hip hop kind of a song. Crazy, crazy dynamics going on here.
Yeah, there's definitely some common elements within this soundtrack, and then there's a lot of things that is like one-off things, but like the hip hop elements and Japanese instrumentation so far to me have been the most consistent aspect of this soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe, I'm continuing to believe that this is a city environment, potentially in Japan now or some other area. As for a composer, I'm not sure if it's an actual Japanese composer, but yeah, as you're saying, grindstone composer, you say Sam Webster?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely somebody influenced by that, to me, would indicate.
Yeah, because it definitely doesn't seem like a Japanese composer to me, and I wonder if maybe part of the game might take place in like Little Tokyo or something like that, where it's like, a North American city, be it the US or Canada or whatever, but then there's there's some sort of an Asian influence there where this adventure mystery monorail game takes place. Because the beginning, like that monorail hype track, didn't really have any Asian influence at all, and neither did the first like 2 or 3 tracks in the soundtrack. So I feel like maybe now we're moving into a spot where there's some Asian influence. My prediction is maybe we'll start moving away from that, and maybe we'll get other influences from maybe a different region if this game takes you to a place that, has more of an ethnic flavor in one direction or another.
Could very well be. It just could be the area. If this is a game where you explore areas inside a world, that would make sense for sure, that as you go through certain areas, you'll get certain sounds. I mean, I'm still city vibes to me.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing. So I'm not thinking about like a game where it's like an RPG game where you go from city to city to plains to the mountains and things like that. To me, it sounds like one large city and you're going through different areas inside it for whatever reason. Once again, thinking about 4.8 stars and thinking like an Uber driver. Who knows? Maybe you're driving through all these different parts. We'll see. Yeah.
I mean, if the city, it starts off on a monorail. So if it's a city big enough to have a monorail system, then it might have lots of different sub-cities within those, like a big metropolis or megalopolis kind of a deal. So, all right, cool. We're getting some theories. We're about halfway through our musical selections. I think there's 15 tunes total, and we just finished song number 7. So, yeah, we are about halfway through. I think we've got a pretty good handle on a lot of the aspects of this game, but I think there's still a lot of question about at least genre, or specific genre and specific location.
Alrighty.
So next up is a track called 401 Cave, and being an IT guy, I can tell you that 401 is kind of a common error that you get when you're not authorized to access like a website. It's like an HTTP error. So maybe this is a cave that you're not allowed to enter to. Maybe you don't have access to this cave or something. If it's a digital cave of some sort. But I don't know. Maybe the song will give us some hints. Let's take a listen, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, that was 401 Cave on our Blind Listen episode, listening to the soundtrack from a game called Going Under. And I expected maybe more of a darkish sounding tune.
Yeah.
Being a cave and that kind of whole 401 aspect of not being authorized, I thought maybe this might be more of an evil electronic sounding track. I got a very different vibe. This was a little more positive and, I don't know, kind of chill, but also had kind of an air of mystery to it. What was your take on this one?
It felt happy to me.
Yeah.
There was a sense of intensity in some of the percussion, but I was noticing a trend within this track. The places that it went seemed to be the same place over and over and over again, but with just different instrumentation. Like, it didn't change the vibe. You still had the stabs with a kind of staccato melodic idea that kind of seems to it went up and then it went down and it kind of up. It was playful, and you still had those stabs, and it just kept changing which instruments were playing that style. So there was a sense of familiarity throughout the entire track, even though you kept changing how it was presented, which I think was cool.
Agreed. I think that whole is like bump, bump, ba-dum, bump, bump, ba-dum. Like, you would get that over and over again, regardless of what was playing. There were a couple of a little more chilled out segments in this song that had a kind of a dub feel to it, where you'd get that, like, it would like fade out on the downbeat, like bump, ba-da-bump, over and over again. That's kind of a very dub sound. The rest of it was way more house. It was not nearly as distorted or as hip hoppy as. If it were hip-hoppy at all, it was maybe more like West Coast hip-hop, whereas a lot of the other tracks before were East Coast, a lot more gritty and grindy, whereas, West Coast back in the day was less distorted beats, lots of rapid hi-hats, and it had generally a more, like, sunny feel to it, I guess. So I got that kind of a vibe from this. I don't really know how the title of the song would fit with the music itself. Did you get any cave vibes or like locked out vibes or anything here?
My indication is that in this game, you are not in the city at this point.
Okay.
It would be maybe you are in a cave or you're in an area. And you're exploring something or exploring an area that's no longer in the city, and maybe that's why it's not so gritty and grindy anymore.
Interesting. Okay.
That would be my indication. As for like a genre of gameplay style, I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I still, like, the best I could come up with so far would be a point and click adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same for me.
Of some variety.
Yeah. I thought, as you were saying, not in the city anymore, I thought, well, maybe you are in the city. Maybe this is like, maybe you're going to different clubs, with their own kind of genres of music, and maybe this is like more of a high-class club. Maybe it's called the 401 Cave, and so maybe, there's less gritty, slum-style music, I guess, is the best way I could describe it right now. But so maybe this was just more of a positive, rich person's kind of a club music.
Well, you're saying 401 with IT is not having permission. You got to be on the guest list.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. All right, so maybe we're on to something. Who knows? I guess we'll find out once we know more about the game. But let's move on to our next piece of music. What do we got next, sir?
Crypto type beat. I'm guessing this has to do with NFTs and Dogecoins and the Shiba coins and the bits and the Ethereums and everything else in this great world of crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the fact that the song makes direct reference to the beat, and I really like tunes that have a very enunciated percussion. So hopefully I'll get some of that in this one.
I think the realm of when they say like something type beat is just funny to me to try and sum up an entire genre in a type beat.
Yeah. Well, this is if crypto were a drum beat, this is what it would sound like. That's what they're trying to tell you.
I'm excited.
It's going to be basically go way, way up and then drop and crash. And then the song is just going to end.
It's going to have a lot of arrogance and elitism inside the beat. You didn't invest in my Dogecoin back in 1934? Oh, look who made all that money now.
Yep. And every 4 measures, there's going to be a sample that goes, bruh. Be right back. All right, that was crypto type beat from Going Under. Evil sounding song. This is probably we've listened to some dirty, stanky tunes, but this is negative in a totally different way. This one had some really creepy, kind of almost spooky vibes going for it. I don't know. Do you find crypto to be spooky?
Only in the sense that people who harvest it and sell it are usually evil villains.
That's fair.
So I'm assuming whoever is harvesting these crypto type beats are probably destroying rainforests with their server farms. So my assumption is once you're inside the 401k, which also to me also sounds like 401k. I
just noticed that when you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my first thought. I did not think about 401 IT. I actually thought about money. I'm thinking that you're in the top of this tower, the server farm with Daddy Elon Musk, and he's showing you the server farm, and you're like, oh no, you're a villain. I'm working for the villain now inside his villain lair of his server farm.
And that's when you get those like dun 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 dun, like really low piano chords. And things just kind of get crazy. Okay. Like the villain pulls the mask off metaphorically, and suddenly you see him for his true self. The ultimate betrayal.
Yeah, it's either you've made it to the villain. Like obviously this isn't like the final boss because we're only halfway, 60% through the game. But this to me is like you're having a meeting with who the big bad is of this game. Either you've been taken there or you're trying to get to him. Kind of like one of those things where you go to the final boss to fight him and then he takes care of you and then you have to like get back on your feet and go back.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of get a taste for what it's all about. And then okay, I can totally see that. like I predicted, we're kind of getting away from those Asian influences, and now we're kind of moving. I wouldn't really say there's any ethnic influence here. It's more like a haunted house influence, but I don't know. Within the past couple tracks, we've been kind of hearing a little bit more of a spookified kind of a sound. So what do you think we might like get more into going forward? Any predictions?
I'm going to guess that things are going to get dark and sinister, mostly because we're getting to what I feel like is part of the game where things are getting bad. I think the player is going to go through a bad time. Would be my guess. So I think we're going to go into a track where things are super peaceful, or they're going to be super frantic. One of those things, like either like how you respond to stress or something bad happening.
Yeah.
Those are my two guesses. Either going to be really dark or really happy.
Yeah, like if your theory is correct, then your character would probably be at like his darkest point right now, right? So this would either be like unbridled rage or like severe depression. So I don't know. Let's see if we're right.
All right, let's find out.
Yeah, this next one is called Trust Fall, which doesn't really sound like a character at his lowest point, but it does say fall, so maybe he's falling, and maybe he's got people that he trusts that is, trying to pick him back up again or something. So I don't know. Let's find out. We also keep saying he, like it could be a they, it could be a she. We really have no idea
anything
at this point. Yeah, could be a dog.
Yeah,
could be a Doge. Could be the adventure of Doge on his way to becoming a coin.
I have literally no idea
exactly
what the character could be. We'll call the character Crypto.
Yeah, I think he's hard boiled or she's hard boiled, regardless of kind of like a noir kind of a character. But yeah, we'll find out. All right, so let's listen to Trust Fall. We'll be right back.
That was Trust Fall, and I have fallen for trust. I don't know what that means, but I think we definitely went the route of intensity instead of somber.
Agreed. I mean, well, you know what a trust fall is, right? Have you heard that term before?
Yeah, I'm assuming if it has to do with like coworkers where you fall back and they catch you.
Yeah, exactly. So, and having a song with that title and also being like a really intense, almost like battle theme sounding, like I don't know how I can't rectify the two together. That's really interesting. I'm not sure.
If I was to try and pin the tail on the donkey, I would say you are falling out of Crypto's lair and you're fighting. Mm-hmm. Like you're descending in midair, or maybe you're up in a plane or a jet and you're fighting in the midair and you're falling and you're, something of that nature. Like it sounds like a battle music of some variety. Like we haven't really assumed that this is like a beat 'em up.
Yeah, or even that there's any sort of real-time action going on at all either.
Yeah, but to me it sounds like this is the first track that I'm like, people are fighting.
Yeah.
Or you're running away from something. Maybe you're going down staircases and something's chasing after you. Like there's an intensity and there's action and it's scary and...
Yeah, it sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
Now we're going back to some Asiatic elements of music here. We've got those really breathy flutes. And again, maybe taiko-style percussion or drums. They're really buried underneath like tons of instrumentation, but I can see like taiko drummers like banging on huge kettles for that percussion. It got really, really thick and intense in places.
Yeah, it's either because like when you're bringing back those Asiatic themes, it still to me sounds like this could be an Asiatic city, but you were just inside a nightclub or an area there that didn't necessarily need those themes, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, we've got another song coming up with a name that's similar to a track we've already listened to. So we listened to 401 Cave. This next one is called 401 Grave. So I don't know if there's going to be any similar themes between the two tracks. Maybe, fall and then graves. Maybe you've fallen into a grave. I told UtopiaNemo when he submitted to do like no more than 15 songs, otherwise the show will get super, super long. So I don't know if there were more pieces of music in this soundtrack than what we currently have to listen to. I don't know if these pieces necessarily come one after another. So saying that, falling into a grave might not necessarily be true because there might be 3 songs in between these 2 tracks, but just the way they've kind of fallen, it looks like, they might go together. But I'm curious to compare 401 Cave to 401 Grave and see where it goes. This is the longest song.
Yeah, I'm like looking at it. It's nearly 6 minutes.
Yeah, so hopefully this one goes places. The longer tracks do seem to have a lot of dynamic content, so I'm expecting this one to as well. All right, let's take a listen to 401 Grave from Going Under.
That sweet funkadelic track was the 401 Grave. And I must say, that is very different from the 401 Cave.
Agreed. I think it started kind of similar. I did mention that it, when we started listening to it, it had like kind of like that less grindy, more high class kind of a feel to it, but also had some really kind of jarring and interesting parts, especially that like real staccato stabby part in the middle, and as it kind of fades down, bump 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 bump, like that's dance floor, like that's like lights strobing and like people waving their arms all over the place. So that brought back the club aspect of it for me. But you had an interesting theory about what might be happening here.
Yeah, that's when your character dies. That's my theory. That beginning of it is you back in the club, you then die, and then things go weird. The more this progresses, I'm starting to get, just like because of this track here, like a platformer sort of track. Like this seems to me like you're in the underworld, the upside down, that the character has now at this point died and is now in a, what do you call it when you take a picture and you invert it and now it's like weird black and yellow?
Negative,
yeah. Like you're in a negative version of the world that you're currently in.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, that really fits with the title of the game, going under, going to the underworld, going to the upside down, more or less, if you're talking about, like a Stranger Things kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an evil mirror universe that this could play. Yeah, okay, maybe 401 Grave is the negative version of 401 Cave.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
And maybe Trust Fall, like maybe you failed the Trust Fall and you died, and so now you end up in the negative version of where you were before.
Or it's the portal.
Yeah, Crypto Man killed you, threw you into the portal instead of killing you, but then you ended up in the negative. Lots of different things. I think these are very specific theories.
Very specific theories.
May or may not come true.
I'm building a game in my mind.
Yeah, I would be laughing hysterically if we were right, though. I mean, I've nailed a couple things in different blind listens, but I think this is the soundtrack where I'm really like, what the hell is going on? Like, I have no idea where we are and what we're doing, but I can't wait to find out.
I'm creating my own game as we're going along here.
And by the time we're done, we'll have written a whole game and we can just start publishing.
I feel like I'm a Facebook/YouTube researcher where I'm just reinforcing my own theories with what I want it to be.
Oh, there's no song called Echo Chamber. That would have been perfect. But instead, we're going to listen to a track called Pink Noise, which has, still more of kind of a digital feel to it. So
I really hope that this is just 2.5 minutes of pink static noise.
Oh.
That would make me so happy.
That would probably put me to sleep. I hope not. All right, well, let's take a listen and we'll be right back.
Alrighty.
Hey, solitude. Don't know what to do. Don't know what to do. Hey, solitude. Don't know what to do.
All right, that was Pink Noise from Going Under by an unknown composer person. One of the, I guess, most coherent, kind of like traditional sounding pieces of music. Not really traditional, I guess, because this is definitely even more of a Wii Shop vibe than that last Wii Shop sounding music piece did. But this one was very, very glitchy, and we actually got to hear some actual words, which was kind of cool. I don't know, what do lyrics in a game soundtrack mean to you, sir?
I think that if there's lyrics inside a game, especially like this, well, first of all, it indicates to me, if I'm not reading too much into it, which I probably am, that there's probably voice acting in the game, which is what my assumption would be, because if you have the capacity to put words in your game, maybe there's voice acting as well. Like when they use the term solitude, what you gonna do, just with that beat, with that Wii Shop vibe, it seems to me that if you're gonna have lyrics in a game and you're not like a JRPG / Metal Gear Rising Revengeance sort of game where it's just like insane anime fighting, where it's already super intense and kind of crazy, it says to me that this is an area of the game where not a lot is going on. Like you could be walking in the upside down world through a desert trying to get out.
Okay. I can see that, but I also feel that this song kind of feels safe in a way, like weird, but just that kind of very Wii Shop-esque instrumentation really brought like the feeling of like a convenience store near my house, or just something that feels not dangerous and more kind of like a friendly, like, hey, come buy our wares. There's nothing that's going to harm you here, so you're safe to kind of look around and browse. So maybe there's kind of a shop in the game or something that has people that you can talk to or purchase items. Like maybe this is kind of like a mutated shop theme of sorts.
Yeah, I could see it. Like, and once again, I'm assuming that these tracks are chronological because it works for my straw man theories.
Yeah, well, Nemo did say that he put the songs in an order that's relative to how they play in the game, as at least the best that he could. So
yeah, I could see, if I'm going to say chronologically, perhaps maybe you've got back or you're in the underground shop. But yeah, I can definitely get like that vibe of you're just inside a shop in a convenience store for sure. Yeah. An area where it's post craziness and you're, decompressing or debriefing yourself mentally for something that's crazy happening, or you're just preparing, or maybe it is just entirely just a random shop and this is just the music that plays whenever you're in the shop.
Yeah, that's true. That could be definitely a recurring piece of music that plays throughout the game, and it's just towards the end of the soundtrack because, that's just the most logical place to put it because it doesn't really fall within the story anywhere. So that's a good point, too. The next piece is called He Who Falls Upward.
Fails.
So I feel like that's kind of a juxtaposition. So we've got juxtapositions.
I believe it says he who fails upwards.
He who does not wear his glasses when looking at the computer screen can easily confuse an I for an L.
He who fails to read the I
upwardly during his podcast recordings. Okay, so he who fails upward, that's more of a different thing. How do you fail upward?
Well, when you fail upward, I assume is when you have accidental success.
Sure. Okay, we'll go with that. That works for me. Where you meant to fail and you accidentally succeeded, so you failed at.
Or something failed and it ended up making you a fortune accidentally.
Yes, you failed at failing. All right, well, enough theories about that one. Let's take a listen to it. He who fails upward from Going Under. All right, that was He Who Fails Upward. I don't even, like, I can't, it's getting harder and harder for me to describe these tunes in words, you know what I mean? It's like, I just kind of want to make a facial expression and wish that everybody could see, because it would look just kind of like I'm having a stroke or something.
It's definitely on trend for all the other ones, you know.
Agreed.
You got those stanky beats.
Yep.
A lot of syncopated offbeat stabs.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of piano stabs.
Yeah. And kind of like a Latin-esque beat. I don't remember whether this was on mic or not, but you were asking whether one of the songs was like more like what trap is, and this is definitely more like what trap is. Doesn't necessarily follow all the tropes of trap, but at least the beat and the bass and like some of the more simple like chords are definitely trap adjacent, or, you know, like inspired by. But I don't know, man. Like, I think that screech, like I called it like R2D2 vocals, but I think what they did is they took flute, like a flute solo, and pitched it way, way up and distorted it, so it sounded almost like robotic screeching, which is great, in my opinion. Like, other people might not like it, but that's a very kind of industrial thing to do, to take an instrument and just distort it so much that it sounds like something completely different, yet still musical. You know, regular pan flute kind of came in along with it and accompanied it towards the end, so that kind of made more of a connection for that instrument for me. I don't know, just like, again, just really interesting choices, and so many musical groups that I just would never think of putting together, kind of like, almost like they're all fighting for space in this song. Like, they don't feel like they're cooperating at times, and it's just like they're wrestling each other in for like the spotlight every once in a while, you know?
Yeah, just like a family of children fighting for their parents' attention.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Super Smash Brothers of ensemble music. Pan flute enters the fray.
Is the pan flute the enemy swordsman?
Exactly. He's the he's the Fire Emblem character that nobody wants.
There you go.
Bum bum bum. All right, so been talking about whether tracks might be darker or lighter sounding through the show. This is the second to last track coming up, and it is called The Dark Pattern. So I'm expecting maybe something a little more evil sounding.
No.
No? You think it's going to be Puppies and Rainbows?
Puppies and Rainbows. I'm going to assume it's going to be Wii Shop music with hip-hop beats and pan flutes.
I think you've learned a little bit by listening to this soundtrack, sir. But I don't know. All right, well, so let's take a listen to The Dark Pattern, the penultimate track for our blind listen today. We'll be right back.
Programmed your brain, we programmed your brain, programmed your brain, we 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 programmed your brain,
right, those were definitely some dark patterns. That was Dark Patterns from Going Under from our Still Mystery composer. I loved this one. This manages to have lots of really authentic industrial elements without meaning to, I think, which kind of makes it even more industrial. Just that repeating reprogrammed your brain sample used as a percussive rhythmic element is definitely very industrial. Kind of the elements of breakbeat percussion without a lot of the other breakbeat tropes makes it industrial as well. Like mixing genres definitely helps that along, and just the general feel of it. I mean, it does kind of break out of it and get into like, I don't know. So like I was just saying before the song ended to you, Ryan, there's some elements in there that do sound kind of more traditionally like video game music. Like I got some kind of RPG-ish elements out of this, kind of stirring underneath all of those breakbeats and kind of like that more aggressive kind of sample-y stuff going on. What was your take on this one? You were kind of quiet during it.
I was quiet because I was just really enjoying it.
Yeah.
The whole we programmed your brains instantly makes me think about Operation Mindcrime album by Queensryche. Mm-hmm. And just like the concept of someone being brainwashed. And then it comes into that break beats. And then it makes me think about Hideki Naganuma just because it has that sort of break beats with the sample that just keeps going on and it kind of goes places.
Heavy use of samples. Yeah, that's definitely a Naganuma thing.
So I thought it was a really cool track. I like the pizzicato strings kind of going over that break beat. It definitely had like a final boss vibe to me. I still really struggle with figuring out what type of game this is with like the different types of tracks, but like musically this is a cool track. It hits in a lot of good places with those break beats.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this could still definitely be a point and click style adventure or a text adventure. You can still have elements of, really intense boss style music in those games, and a lot of times it's just like you have a limited time to make a certain dialogue choice, or you have to click on the right part of the screen to move around the area in the right way to beat a countdown or something. So really intense pieces of music like this can definitely belong in a more text-based graphic novel style game and still convey that kind of urgency that you would have without needing to have like real-time run and gun or platforming elements. That being said, I think the soundtrack on a whole still makes me think that this is much more of an slower-paced adventure game than it is like a real-time, like you were saying. You don't think it's a top-down shooter or anything like that. I think it's a more kind of grown-up exploration dialogue kind of a game. Is that kind of where your head is still at?
Yeah, it's still very much to me a dialogue-heavy game. I'm not quite sure about whether or not like how you get around in the game, of whether or not it's like a click or you move around with like a mouse and keyboard to go left and right and you pick up items, or there's platforming elements. It's really hard to tell, but yeah, I don't get run and gun. If there is battles in this game, my guess is that they would be turn-based in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I get that.
If there is combat.
Maybe there's only one way you can move around, and that's by monorail. And you're just really hyped about
monorail. This whole game is on a monorail, and you're going through.
Yep, it even goes into the underworld.
You're just going from train car to train car.
Undead monorail.
That's right.
All right, so we've got one last piece of music to listen to, and then all will be unveiled. We'll make our final guesses and theories about the game and see how close we matched up to the real thing. And the last track is called, Ryan?
Bittersweet victory music. We won, but at what cost?
Exactly. So let's take a listen to Bittersweet Victory. We'll be right back. All right, that was Bittersweet Victory Music, our last track of this lovely and very fun blind listen from the game Going Under, which we will learn all about in just a few short minutes. But first, this did have kind of an uplifting feel, in my opinion. I do think that it had like an urban positivity to it. It had kind of like those gritty beats, but the accompanying instrumentation was really kind of soaring, and those synths were very bubbly and very positive sounding. Is that kind of like the impression you got as well?
It started off like you got the bad ending.
Yeah.
And then like it just started off dark and sinister, like the bittersweet, like to me, maybe you had to tank the mainframe and destroy everything, but you saved humanity. So like it turns into like this happy, upbeat, glitchy sound. So like just like even like the end track really gives me this idea that this is futuristic, cyberpunk. Maybe the whole game takes place inside a computer.
Okay.
Like there's just something robotic about this track that makes me think, thinking back on all of these tracks, how they're kind of glitchy and a fusion. I'm assuming this is credit music because like I'm assuming like the beginning of it where it's glitchy, or rather where it's dark and sinister is where, you beat the bad guy and you won out at one cost, and then when the credits start actually rolling is when it moves into that more happy, upbeat, glitchy portion of it.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. I thought maybe that this was all just one long kind of story sequence, and that, there was kind of a bittersweet element to the initial victory, but then you kind of get to see that your impact on the world was maybe a little bit more positive, or it was a negative impact on you, but a positive impact for the world. Like maybe you had to sacrifice something of yourself to unprogram everybody's brains, if we want to go with that. The sample from that last song, He Who Fails Upwards. So, or the Dark Pattern. That was the one that had the reprogrammed your brain sample.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So, final theories. Who do you think may have composed this soundtrack?
My ability to name composers and things like that is not very great.
That's fair.
So I will say that I believe this is a Western indie composer, would be my best guess. Someone who's been influenced a lot by a lot of the same people that I've been influenced or I've listened to myself. So because I'm not so great on the indie scene, and I'm not necessarily that this is an indie composer, but that would be my best guess.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's well within the realms of where I'd be guessing as well. So I don't really think it's scientific, because I'm pretty aware of everything that he's done. But like I said, I think Sam Webster's a really good theory for me, simply because I know that Nemo and I have shared a love of his music, and so he would want to share something similar to me. So if it's not Sam Webster, then it's going to be somebody that's very like runs in the same kind of circles, But I'm also going with definitely Western indie composer of that ilk. I think it's fairly obvious that we both kind of agree that it is let's say it's an indie game that was made within the last 5 years. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, it sounds reasonable to me. I'm saying the 2017, 2018 era.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. We agree on that. And final guess on type of game.
I'm going to go with a 2D/2.5 dimension. I'm going to go with either an isometric, or I'm going to go with like I said, a point to click, or like a table RPG like Divinity.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I'm going to go with a text-based adventure game similar to Read-Only Memories or any of those kinds of titles, maybe like a Telltale style game, something with a lot of dialogue and a lot of decisions to be made.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about the storyline, so I think we're going to kind of stick with that, where there's kind of a overarching technological villain, and maybe there's two sides to reality, one negative and one positive, just kind of based on the style of music and the names of the songs.
Like the going under could just be entirely mean like going under into the mainframe.
Sure.
The normal reality that you're in, and then your mind going into the matrix, essentially.
Yeah.
Would be my sort of idea.
Like going under surgery, being knocked out, like maybe you lose consciousness when you go into this other space.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to like Shadowrun, where like the Deckers would like, jack into the computer mainframe and they would be like totally vulnerable while that happens, so you needed other people to protect you. So I kind of feel that as well. All right, so I think we've got our situation settled here as far as game theories go. Are you ready to listen to UtopiaNemo's unveiling of what we've actually been listening to this whole time?
I am. I'm ready. My body is ready.
All right, so without further ado, here's Nathan, aka UtopiaNemo, with the blind listen reveal for Going Under.
So, agents, how did you do? I'm sure you guessed exactly right, that this is a sardonic RTS game about conquering the Egyptian underworld. What? Oh, sorry, wrong game. No, this game is a polygonal roguelike developed by AgroCrab, in which you play Jackie, a fresh-faced intern at a startup called Fizzle. Your boss reveals that the Fizzle office is built on top of other failed startups, and tasks poor Jackie with clearing out all these startups of the monsters that inhabit them, as well as recovering relics contained therein. And that's the actual game. Serious this time. The tracks were all composed by King Felix, aka Felix Peasley, except for the final track, which was produced by Chong the Nomad. I found out about the game from a Kotaku morning music article and bought the OST immediately off of Bandcamp. There are 29 tracks in the soundtrack. I highly recommend picking it up. Agents Ryan and Ed, thank you for sharing this blind listen experience with me. It's been a long time coming. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got some special mission expense forms to fill out. Until next time, this is Agent UtopiaNemo, signing out.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so we were... I mean, well, you know what? We were kind of right on the technology angle, so we at least had that. We were in the right area with the composer. It's at least a Western indie. Let's see. I'm going to do some clicky clackies on the keyboard here. And no, in past blind listens, I said excuse the keyboard noise and nobody ever hears it, but I've got a mechanical keyboard now, so it's going to be super loud. Let's see. Going under.
I was right about isometric, not about 2.5, or about how it does it, but it definitely has it's definitely a 3D low poly game.
Yeah, low poly. So it has kind of a, I don't know, PS2?
Pastel.
Very pastel colors. Released in 2020, September of 2020, so just about a year old. And it came out on PS4, Windows, Xbox One, and Switch. And it's a roguelike indie fighting action role-playing game. Very interesting. Oh, and it's on sale right now for 66% off.
There you go. It's on cheap.
Okay, so there's some cinematics. Very pastel. Characters have like bright orange skin, bright yellow hair, bright blue shirts. Yeah, the CEO's super evil. Yeah, okay, so it's a polygonal fighting game. it's exactly what we were like, nope. Nah, this can't be that.
Oh no.
We were way off. Nemo, you got us, man.
I'm very disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
Except I'm not.
But there is a negative version of yourself. So there's an imposter who's like a nega version. So, okay, so we have there's a little bit there with the positive and negative, although it's the characters instead of the world. And you can gain business cards from people when you save them, which give you abilities. Very interesting. All right, but I am for sure getting this soundtrack, and I'm actually, this game looks really good, so I might pick the game up too.
Definitely got the dystopian vibes from the music, and an evil CEO as you're going, underneath each startup that failed. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we were going to grade ourselves for how well we did, I think I'd give us a C+.
Yeah, maybe not quite 4.8 stars
right
for that one.
Maybe like 3.6 stars, something like that.
Yeah, it was definitely not the aesthetic I had going on in my vibe. Although I did say at the very beginning on the monorail, those kind of pastel colors.
Yeah, you did.
My thought.
But you said more watercolors, and this was more like very solid.
More watercolors.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give myself as many back pats as possible.
And I'm just going to take them away, sir. No, but I agree. I mean, you got the color palette very, very, very good there. So, but now I want to check out like stuff like monorail hype and everything, and just see how those tunes are visually represented in the game.
The thing that does not surprise me is the fact that it's a roguelite, because indie roguelite is just so rampant.
Yeah, true.
In such a... So, I'm not surprised that it is one, but I am surprised that it is one by listening to the music.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. Not surprised in terms of the saturation of the market, but are surprised based on what we listen to. I totally get that. Definitely get that. Dude, thank you so much for hanging out with me and doing this blind listen. This was fun. And I don't think I've ever been this far off as far as video games go before, but I still had an absolute blast guessing with you.
It's all my fault. I took you down such a bad rabbit trail.
It's okay. And that's fine, because I have a feeling the listeners out there were probably just as confused as we were. So I don't know how many people would have gotten this correct, but I hope that they really enjoyed the music as much as we did, because these songs are just absolute trips through all sorts of musical landscapes. And if you're into even a little bit into like glitchy or underground electronic music, there's so much to be had here to like gobble up. It's like a veritable buffet of electronic music genres. So I was really happy to be able to get introduced to this soundtrack, and knowing that there's like 29 pieces of music in this OST means like even if the soundtrack's like $20, it's still going to be worth the purchase price, because it's still less than $1 per track, and I'm sure they're all going to be quality tunes.
Yeah, I'm thinking back, and I'm thinking about some of these song titles. I'm thinking how you said it's an office. You're in the office grind. I mean, I took you right out of that. And you think about the 401 and the crypto and the things like that. They're all office things. They're all IT tech.
See, and I just figured, because that's my life, working in an office doing IT, that I was kind of like letting my real life bleed into these, letting that influence my perspective on the game. But I guess it was all the same anyway. So very cool.
Like I said, I led you far. I took you off the path.
It's okay.
I
you don't have to apologize. You don't have to apologize.
I will betray. I have to apologize. I'm a Canadian. I have to say I'm sorry.
That's fair.
It is the way.
All right. Well, as your penance and recompense for being wrong and doing me wrong, you must now tell everybody, all the listeners, where you can find more Ryan Steele goodness on the internet.
Oh, heavens. That requires me to remember what any of my handles are. You can find me on the Discord, Ryan DS. I'm an absolute savage, and I post random shenanigans, and I don't have anything good to say. You can find me on SoundCloud. I think it's Ryan DS, Ryan Steele Productions. I'm sure if you Google it, you won't find me. I think my Twitter is at Ryan DS, Ryan Steele. I don't know any of my handles. I'm sure Ed will just copy and paste what he had the last time I was here.
Probably
throw it in the show notes. Yep, I can't remember.
Sure. But you've got a soundtrack out on Bandcamp for the Catlandia game, plus the DLC, which has come out since the last time you were on the show, and you just announced a new game, right?
Yep, we have announced that a sequel is coming out. It is now in isometric 3D, and we are doing grid-based slash TRPG combat style, attempting to get closer to the idea of like a Fire Emblem slash Divinity Original Sin sort of.
Interesting.
Yeah, so combat is ideally going to be still turn-based, but on a grid, larger grid. And so we're working on making new ideas, and it's probably going to take forever for it to come out because game development is long.
Especially in the indie scene. So is that going to change how you approach the soundtrack? Is it going to be more grand in scale, or are you going to keep it playful? Or
I am working on doing more dynamic music.
Cool.
More dynamic tracks, more things that I'm doing compositions that are 15-20 second pieces that'll loop or expand depending on where you are on the map, and then depending on what the combat. So the music, I'm attempting to do more dynamic music rather than static regular RPG music.
Excellent. Really looking forward to that. So keep an eye out for Catlandia 2. I guess that's maybe the tentative working title. Maybe we'll have a
Project Cardboard Box.
Project Cardboard Box. Love it. Very, very feline. All right. So, that pretty much does it for the show. As always, I'd like to thank Indira J for the art on the show, and Trevin Hughes, aka Dread, for the podcast theme song. You can find us at the VGMbassy.com, where you can check out all our previous episodes and hit up the Discord link on the side of the website. And there you can join our lovely VG Embassy Discord and hang out with lots of amazing people like Ryan and like UtopiaNemo, who are both always hanging out, always having great chats together. Or just, shooting the crap and not talking about anything particular at all and making dumb memes.
That's what it's all about.
Exactly. 1 minute we are crying our eyes out about some crazy stuff that happened in real life. The next minute we're talking about, I don't know, which Mega Man villain would be the best in bed. It goes on in either direction. Anyways.
Definitely not Freeze Man.
Or Flash Man.
Nope.
Or Quick Man. All right, we're getting way off topic and I'm getting punchy.
Who would be? I'm going to say...
Woodman.
Woodman. Either that or Concrete Man.
Yeah, or Gemini Man, because, double up. Anyways, I would like to thank all of our Patreon patrons, as always, without whom this show would not be possible, starting at the Taurus level: Bedroth from the Very Good Music VGM podcast, Dan Lawton, a.k.a. The Phantomire, Daryl Bowers, a.k.a. The Last Recon, and Cameron Childs. At our VG Emissary tier, The Dyad, Kyle Kroll, Jordan Worma from the Table to Stage podcast, Ganon11, a.k.a. Mike Stark from the Norwalk Gamers Symphony Orchestra, Chris Steenerson, Chris Myers, and Chris Murray. At our audio attaché level, Scott McElhone, Carlos, a.k.a. Carlito from the Heroes 3 podcast, and Cameron Worma. At our special agent tier, Volts Supreme from Volts Supreme Synth VGM Dream Stream Machine. I can finally say that without tripping over myself. And our dear friend, Ryan Steele. Thanks again for hanging out with me on the show today. And our VG Ambassador tier, Frank Lee Zappa, who we just had on our last show, and the patron saint of VGM podcasts, Alex the Messenger. All right, Ryan, so until next time, and we'll definitely have a next time, we'll come up with a great topic. Maybe not a blind listen, but we'll share some more cool music. Thanks again for being on the show, and hit me up. We'll come up with some good reasons to have you back on.
Oh, good. At least I was witty and entertaining enough to warrant another appearance.
Absolutely, sir.
I live in constant fear and need constant admiration and words of... I need confidence boost. Validation, there we go. I need to be validated constantly.
Well, consider this validation for at least the next couple months until you're back on the show.
Sounds tight.
All right, guys. Well, until then, we'll see you next month with... I don't even remember what's coming up next. I have a large schedule, but we will get to that when we get to that. Stay cool, stay safe, and keep listening to awesome VGM. Take care, everyone.
Bye.